Laura from Madison Public Library, back with another DaVinci's workshop. This week is the animal edition, and we will be making an elephant figurine, or decorating it, and learning about elephants. So in your craft kit, you'll find your instruction sheet, an elephant figurine, a little popsicle stick, a small container of glue. It'll be smaller than this. I ran out of the small one, so I had to use this for mine. And then a bag of multicolored tissue paper. And then from home, you'll need a small dish, maybe something plastic that you'll be putting the glue into and mixing with water. And then of course water. And you'll need a paintbrush. And I would also suggest using a plate or something underneath, because it'll probably get sticky from the glue. And that's about everything. So we might as well dive on into our activity, and then we'll learn about the African bush elephant later on. So let's get started. So the first thing you'll need to do is open up your glue, and then you'll have to pour it into your little container. This was a big enough container, so I decided to add some water. It's probably about 2 tablespoons of water. For you guys, you will just pour out your little cup of glue into another container that's bigger, and you should use your popsicle stick to scrape the sides and get as much out as you can. And then you're just going to add a tablespoon or 2 of water, and just take your popsicle stick and stir it all around until it's well mixed. So once you mix the glue with the water, it should be a lot thinner, and that will just be better for this project. So you can set that aside and open up your bag of tissue paper. And I'm just gonna take some out. You can leave it in the bag if you want to avoid making a mess. Just put a few pieces out here. And now you're just going to take your paintbrush and dip it in your glue mixture. And then you just put a little layer on whatever spot you choose. I will just start with the back and just put some on. It can be a pretty generous layer. And then all you do is take your tissue paper and stick it on, and just press it down so that it sticks to the glue. And then you can just take more pieces of tissue paper and layer it up on top of the other one, which will help avoid any blank spaces. I'll just go in with a few different colors to cover up the glue that we put down. And once you have a few of them down, I'm just going to take your paintbrush again and go over it. To just make sure our tissue paper stays in place. And you really should just focus on doing a thin layer on top to avoid getting the tissue paper too wet. And basically you just continue this process. Let's see, I'll do a little close-up. Okay guys, so this is how it looks right now after I just put these 4 pieces down. And you just take your time and keep going and layer up the colors. And so I will keep going with this, and I'll check in every few minutes to show you my progress. Okay, so here's my first check-in. I kept going with the tissue paper and glue and did all of this. And just for some tips, you want to be gentle with your paintbrush, and you don't want the layers of glue to be too thick. Unless you're around a curved area, like the ear here, you just right about here, you want to have a little extra glue just to make sure the tissue paper is sticking down as best as it can and there won't be any air bubbles or anything. And now it's time for our second update. I covered the ears and the whole elephant trunk, and I kept working on the back. Here is a look at the final product. It's all shiny right now. But you really want to go in with that last layer of glue to really seal everything in. And if you want, you can go ahead and add a few more squares to areas that you want to be a little bit brighter. Like the green, I ended up just layering 2 together. And with some of the orange, I did that also. And then the next step is just finding somewhere safe to put it where it can dry. So now that our elephant is done, I can talk a little bit about the African bush elephant. Okay, so these elephants, you can see one here and on all the other books I have. So the African bush elephant can grow up to 24 feet wide and 13 feet tall. So it's much wider and much taller than we are. And they can live up to 70 years, and they can even weigh up to 8,000 pounds, which is a few tons of weight. Despite their huge size and intimidating appearance, these animals are herbivores, which means they eat plants. So they will eat grass and roots and fruit. And while there are a few different species of elephants, the African bush elephant, reflecting its name, lives in Central and Southern Africa in the savanna grasslands, some partial desert areas, and they can even live in tropical forests. So they are the planet's largest land animal, and they're nomadic, which means that they are constantly moving in search of food, and they can eat up to 300 pounds of vegetation a day. And as soon as you look at an elephant, you'll see its gray, wrinkly skin, which actually helps their skin maintain moisture in the hot climate and dry heat. Then you see their huge, long front legs and their big leaf-like ears protruding from their heads. And then, of course, their tusks on either side of their trunk. So an elephant's trunk is basically its nose, and it acts as the elephant's upper lip. And this trunk, it has no bones in it, so it's extremely flexible, and it's just made of so many muscles that it can move all over the place, and there's so many ways that an elephant uses its trunk. What we can sometimes see in zoos is an elephant sucking up water and then spraying it out, either onto itself to cool down or even on other elephants. And their trunks can pick up objects, and they can lift really heavy weights with their trunks. You know, because the trunk is the elephant's nose, they can use it to smell water up to 12 miles away, and then they'll know where to go, or they can drink some water or take a bath. And through this activity, I learned that elephants actually can use their trunks as a snorkel when they're swimming in water. So they can be fully submerged in the water, and then you'll just see a little trunk sticking out, and that's what they're using to breathe. So while male elephants tend to live on their own, the females and their calves travel in herds of up to 10, and they're led by an older, more experienced female who is also called a matriarch. And that matriarch leads them all. So elephants are considered vulnerable to extinction because of their dwindling numbers, although recently conservation efforts have been made and the elephant numbers are starting to rise. But over decades and centuries, with human poaching and a lack of land to roam, they have just been dying out. And human poaching is terrible, and they go after elephants for their tusks, which are ivory and that can sell on the black market for really high prices, and that's why they do it, and it's really terrible. And luckily there are efforts out there being made to stop that. And lastly, the African bush elephant is one of 3 recognized species. I think the other is the Asian elephant, and then a different type of African elephant. But I will include plenty of links in your email for this, so you can learn a lot more about elephants. And you can even come here to Madison Public Library to check out a book on them. I hope you enjoyed making this little elephant here, and I'll see you again next time for another DaVinci's workshop. Bye!